You know what, guys? I hate fantasy football. I really do. I can't stand it. I despise it. It's ruined football, man. It's completely ruined my NFL viewing experience. Sure, I play it. But I'm the guy who checks my team 10 minutes before the, Sunday 1 o'clock kickoff and forget to set my lineup half the time on Thursdays. And yeah, sometimes I work the waiver wire, but I'm not religious about it. I don't constantly tinker with my lineup for hours and hours and hours. I don't read or watch Matthew Berry or any other of that fantasy-related crap. You got people who constantly, just seconds after second after second after minute, refresh their phones to see what the score is. It has completely ruined my NFL viewing experience. I don't care about your team. I don't care about who you drafted. I don't care who your sleepers are. I don't care who you just picked up on the waiver wire. I don't care what trade you just made and how much of a steal you think it is. I don't care if your team is winning. I don't care if your team is losing. I don't care how many points your team scored. I don't care how many points your team needs to win. And the worst is the fan who will root against his own team because a wide receiver or a running back or quarterback on his fantasy team is on the opposition. Talk about how awesome a block the guard just made pulling and setting the edge. Anything but your fantasy team. Hell, I'd rather talk about if Caitlyn Jenner will attend Shady McCoy's all-female party than fantasy football. God. Fantasy football sucks, guys. It really does. But why am I bringing all this up? Well, because no other position has been ruined more by fantasy football than the tight end. You guys know that there's, more than playing tight end than being able to catch the ball, right? It's only half the battle. You got to be able to block, too. You'll notice that Julius Thomas isn't in my top 5. It's because he can't block. Can't block worth a shit. But yeah, so that rant, the fantasy football rant, you'll never hear fantasy football from me again. So there's that. So what do I look for in a tight end? There's hands, route running, and blocking. Hands. A lot of tight ends work the seams in the middle of the field, so you need strong hands to hang on to the ball and prevent an aggressive linebacker looking to lay a big hit and pry the ball loose. Route running, being able to run the seam, to stretch the field and open up the short passing game, getting open in the red zone on play action, and running after the catch when receiving a pass in the flats or crossing over the middle. And blocking, good old blocking. Sealing outside linebackers and driving defensive ends off the ball, playing with leverage, understanding angles, and having the athleticism to get out on the second level in the screen game. All right, Rob Gronkowski is my top-ranked tight end. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. And as much of a matchup nightmare Gronk is catching the ball, he's also a very good blocker in both pass protection and run blocking. And he really doesn't get enough credit in those aspects. But in the passing game, he is absolutely uncoverable. 6'6", 265. He runs like a 4.6, 540. He's too big for safeties, too fast for linebackers, and his hands are the size of cantaloupes. He combines strength through his break with the quickness and balance to move quickly and decisively through his route. Lackluster receiving core, but Gronk has that ability to take over a game by himself. He played in less than half the team's snaps the first 4 games of last season while continuing to recover from his ACL tear the year prior. And he also sat out the Week 17 finale against Buffalo. In those 5 games, the Pats went 2-3 and averaged 17.8 points per game. In the other 14, New England went 13-1, putting up 34.8 points per contest. The Pats brought him along slowly. He ran short crossing patterns and curls at first, and his route tree expanded as the year went along. Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham, who is number 2 on my list, have been paired together as the best tight ends in the game for the last few years now. But Gronk is more fluid at the catch point. He has better feet and a more intelligent route runner. Gronk also has a more versatile skill set. You know, he can block. Moving on to Graham now. He comes from New Orleans to Seattle, which is interesting because he's going to be asked to run block more with the Seahawks having a more run-heavy offense. And when it comes to blocking, he doesn't have the meanness to be a strong finisher. He's a guy that, you know, gets in the way more than he actually blocks. He dealt with a lot of nagging injuries a year ago, and his 8 drops led all tight ends. Graham was always Drew Brees' favorite target in the red zone and excelled on the back shoulder tosses that, you know, Brees loves to throw. Also a fantastic leaper to haul in those jump balls in the back corners of the end zone. It'll be, you know, again, it'll be really interesting to see what he does in Seattle, what kind of rapport he and Willson will have and build as the season goes along. While Seattle's receiving core is better than New England's, it's not a strength of the team, and I expect Graham to be the focal point in the passing game like Gronk is in Foxborough. Jason Witten, my 3rd-ranked tight end. He wouldn't be ranked 3rd in fantasy rankings, I'll tell you that right now. Not the receiving threat he used to be, but he's still the best blocking tight end in the game. And that's scary, really, because Dallas's offensive line is already top-notch, the best line in the game. When the Cowboys run the wide zone stretch scheme, Witten is exceptional at setting the edge, and due to Dallas's commitment to the run last season, Witten stayed into block more. It's why his receiving numbers were down. His 703 yards were the fewest since his rookie year in 2003. While Witten may not be, you know, a deep threat, he's still a dependable 3rd down and red zone target. He's at his best finding the open spaces in zone coverage. I mean, what can I say? The man is simply tougher than super glue. Number 4 is Greg Olsen, who's been Carolina's top receiving threat since coming over from Chicago in a trade in 2011. He was 2nd among tight ends in receiving yards last season with 1,008. Runs crisp routes, has soft hands. Blocking isn't his strength, but he's worked at it diligently since coming into the league. And, you know, he's improved and become respectable in that area. Finishing blocks is when he tends to get too finesse. God damn, I have a lot of trouble getting that one out. Travis Kelce, number 5. And look for the 3rd-year tight end to break out in a big way in 2015. He saw the field more and more and more as the season went along. After not seeing more than 50 snaps in each of his first 9 games, he surpassed that total in 6 of his last 7 contests. He became Alex Smith's favorite target by the end of the year and finished with 67 receptions for 862 yards and 5 scores. But it's his exceptional blocking which has him in the top 5. And he might even be a better run blocker than he is a pass catcher. He's right up there with Witten when it comes to run blocking. He's effective both in line and on the move pre-snap. He uses his athleticism to get to the 2nd level with ease and lock up linebackers. He has very good speed for a big man to go along with soft hands in the receiving game. He uses that speed to run the seam and has learned to use his frame to box out defenders. He does, however, need some improvement with his route running. It can get a little sloppy at times, but overall, really good player, really still young, and I look for him to be, you know, pretty much top-notch guy this season. Julius Thomas checks in at number 6, and like I said above, his blocking is the reason why he's not in the top 5. He needs to be in a 2 tight end scheme with a blocker on the other side because, you know, he can't block. As a receiver, however, he is as dangerous as any tight end in the game, especially in the red zone. But the question becomes, how many touchdowns will he get in 2015? Because how many times will Jacksonville actually be in the red zone? He can really thank Peyton Manning for that fat paycheck. I'll tell you that right now. All right, I have Vernon Davis at number 7. And he's a guy, you know, tough to rank because he was one of the top 5 tight ends in the league for the last couple seasons, but mysteriously disappeared a year ago. I mean, remarkable. Total just 245 yards receiving after going for at least 700 in 4 of his previous 5 seasons. The 6'3", 250-pounder has 4.4 to 4.5 speed and is at his best running the seams. He did, however, battle ankle and back trouble last season, so that might have been part of the reason for his struggles. Martellus Bennett is number 8. When he came to the Bears as a free agent in 2013, he was also a very good inline blocker, but his receiving numbers have skyrocketed in Chicago. He's coming off his first Pro Bowl season after logging 90 receptions for 916 yards and 6 scores. He uses his 6'6" frame to box out defenders and is very good at working the seam. And yeah, he's still a pretty solid blocker, especially in the run game, but that's only if he's motivated because the effort isn't always there from snap to snap. Delanie Walker is number 9 and broke out as a receiver last season, tallying 890 yards on 63 receptions. He had gone for 571 yards during his first year with Tennessee after not totaling more than 400 in any of his 7 seasons with San Francisco. But Walker had never gone over 400 because he was used primarily as a blocker with the Niners because Vernon Davis was the one catching passes. But now Walker is the one showing that he can catch the ball too. And as a blocker, oh yeah, he can open up a lot of holes for the Titans. Zach Ertz rounds out my top 10. Many Philadelphia fans expected, the Stanford product to break out in his second season last year, but injuries to the offensive line early on in the year limited his pass catching production because the Birds needed Brent Celek in there to be that extra guy to help out the line. Pass blocking isn't Ertz's strength. And that's an understatement. Celek's obviously a lot better in that area. But Ertz is a solid run blocker, however. Doesn't get enough respect in that aspect. He got more and more snaps as the offensive line got healthier and obviously broke out in a huge way in Week 16 when he posted an Eagles franchise record for receptions with 15. Dwayne Allen is 11th, Charles Clay 12th, Jordan Cameron 13th, Antonio Gates 14th, Virgil Green 15th, Ladarius Green 16th, Celek 17th, Heath Miller 18th, Coby Fleener 19th, and Kyle Rudolph rounds out the top 10 or the top 20. Besides Kelce, Virgil, and Ladarius Green are the 2 most underrated tight ends on this list. Virgil Green is the reason why Thomas became expendable in Denver. There is so much untapped potential there, and I think he's a guy that's ready to explode in 2015. And to be honest, he could be ranked higher, but, I played it a little safe, and I kept him at 15. He has that seek and destroy blocking acumen and very good at setting the edge. He can also kick out block well, too. And in Gary Kubiak's run-oriented zone scheme, his versatility will be maximized. Green hasn't always been used, or he's always been used primarily as a blocker because of Thomas's skill set, but we're going to see this year that he can catch the ball a little bit too. Green has underrated hands and athleticism and will use that to his advantage when working the seams in Denver's vertical passing game. The other Green, Ladarius, is underrated because he's overshadowed by Gates. And like Gates, blocking isn't his strength, but as a pass catcher, he uses his 4.5 speed to his advantage on crossing patterns because he's dangerous with the ball in his hands. He has the ability to fill Gates' shoes when he eventually hangs up the cleats. So, in terms of that speed, really dangerous, with the crossing patterns. The 2 highly regarded rookies from a year ago, Eric Ebron and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, did not get off the promising starts. Jace Amaro probably had the best rookie season out of the tight ends. Perhaps it was the learning curve, but Ebron really had trouble learning the Detroit playbook, lost a lot of confidence, and but I expect to see a leap forward this season. He has the potential to stretch the middle of the field due to his speed and huge catch radius. It'll be interesting to see if Josh Hill is ready to step up for New Orleans following the trade of Graham. I have Hill at number 50. Ben Watson is primarily a blocker. Max Williams is the tight end to watch out for out of the rookies. He's 40th on my list. Owen Daniels followed Kubiak to Denver, and who knows, what Baltimore will get out of Dennis Pitta, who's coming back from a second hip dislocation. As for a deep, deep sleeper who may emerge in 2015, I'm keeping an eye on Darren Fells. He's number 44 on my list. The former basketball player began to figure things out late last season for the Cardinals. All right, so that's it for this video. Yeah, you got my thoughts on how I feel about fantasy football. Not a fan. Not a fan. But, yeah, that's it for today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, @TheBitterBirds. I'll see you guys later. And, yeah, make sure you debate me. You know, comment on these rankings. What do you guys think? Who's your top 5? Who's your top 10? I want to hear from you guys. All right, so that's it. Later. Peace.